Welcome
Thank you.
to the CMO Corner.
Hey, papa, mama, I made it.
Wow. This is round 2. So you really made it. Like,
Mama,
this
I
is
made it
so
on
hard.
twice.
We started last year. It was late last year at the IFEs.
Yes.
I had 10 minutes with you briefly.
I remember that.
That was amazing. Totally loved it.
Thank you.
I don't do this for the numbers, but the numbers showed.
Yeah.
I look at the numbers every now and again. I'm like, people love this interview.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. So now they're going to have you for a full hour.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Make a girl feel good in the morning.
So welcome. Thank you for your time. How are you?
I am well.
Yeah.
I'm a little energy-wise tired. Yesterday was a big day. I was telling you earlier. We got to launch a project that the team had been working on for over 2 years with its own dramas.
Yeah.
But to finally see, I think for marketers, the happiest place is when you're creating.
Yeah.
And then when you can give that creation to, consumers and then wait
Yeah,
on, their response to what you think they'll love, but you'll see it and how they react. So I think yesterday was an energizing day for me to see my team show up and show out and be proud. I think that's the highest, what it's called, reward I get is not now. I think at the stage of my career now, it's not about what I can do. It's what I see others doing, which allows me to okay, it was worth it, right? Like it was worth it. And our industry's in good hands. And that's good.
Okay.
That's great.
I want to double click on a couple of things you mentioned, but we'll get back there. Start us from the beginning. Like, how did you find yourself in the space that you and I love?
Yeah? I would say I planted a seed, let go of it. So I thought I was going to become a marketer. In fact, I applied to the University of Pretoria to do marketing.
Okay.
Then during those career expos where the different universities come and speak to schools. Yeah. We were with a couple of my friends in the auditorium. Rhodes University came through. And for context, it was the week after we'd gone to write some of these tests, the assessments for UCT. And I was just like, that was hectic. So they come through and they tell us about their university, and it sounds great. And then we saw a guy, guys. We saw a guy, one of my prospectors on the front, there was a guy. And I think the hormones kicked in. And so after they tell us about this amazing university, they're like, any questions? And our first question was like, are these people real students? Second one is, are they there now? And I think through that we decided Rhodes is where we're going.
Wow. And
went there, because marketing was in the little book, it wasn't even my first choice, just triple check that it was there. We're going. I get there, and they're like, no, marketing is not a degree. It's a course with an e-commerce degree. So now I'm just like, how am I going to tell my mom after driving from Johannesburg all the way, to Egini that there's no degree like that I'm going to use. So I kept it to myself, let her go home, asked the lady, okay, what else could I do? She's like, commerce. I was like, oh, okay, great. I'll do a Bachelor of Commerce, generics. I'll figure this thing out. And when they printed it, there were all these statistics, economics. Guys, clearly, you can tell I wasn't that prepared. So I'm like, which ones do I choose? They're like, no, you take all of them. And I was like,
oh, snap.
But that's my journey. So did that, went to university, did economics and management, and graduated with that. Thought I was going to become an economist. And then through my leadership roles at Rhodes, as a student, we get invited to this leadership breakfast. That's what it was titled. So I'm like, oh, it's because of the leadership work we're doing. And as a student, you never say no to a free lunch. And if you know, Rhodes, guys, there's not a lot. Akuna le McDonald's, So if you get to go eat at a hotel, a bougie hotel,
take it.
We were all there. And when we got there, it was actually a recruitment lunch hosted by Procter. It was the first year that they were recruiting from Rhodes, actually. And I didn't know Procter & Gamble, the company. I knew the brands. So when you walked in, you saw Hugo Boss, you saw Pringles, you saw Pampers. And more than anything, what made me decide to take the leap of faith and leave the economics profession that I'd gone, and did internships in, but realized I can't be me. I can't be this girl who's passionate and loud.
Now I can't see it, actually. Yeah.
I like the theory. Yeah. I love the science, but I can't live that like this, So we went to the breakfast, and what really hooked me, like I was saying, was the passion that everybody had for what they did. And on that day, I didn't even speak to anybody in marketing. I spoke to somebody in, I think at that time it was in supply chain. I spoke to a person in finance and HR. Yeah. Now, I'm not hating on my HR and finance people, but I'm just like, how exciting can this be? But they were really excited about this company that they worked for. They were all so interested in it. I was like, let's take the risk. So started my career there. I need to thank a lady called Zambini Pefa, because in the interview, she was like, I'm going to do you a solid. You are applying to be a consumer market insights lady because of your research background. But trust me when I say you're a marketer. And through that intervention, my journey started. And so started my career at Procter on Head and Shoulders. And at that time, I think Unilever, funnily enough, had just bought Tresemme. And overnight, they had catapulted themselves to the #1 position in the company in terms of share ownership. And so I was on the second biggest brand, but in a time of big competitive challenge for Pantene.
Got you.
And because it was all hands on deck on Pantene to make sure that they are defending their share, I was left to my own accords. Like my manager was pregnant when I joined, and she had to be on bed rest as I joined. So I was just this kid who was just trying to look like she was a corporate, baddie. She's got it together, but I had no clue what I was supposed to be doing. But through mentorship and people like Tabani Msomi, who,
I know Tabani Msomi.
The Tabani Msomis, the Masalas, I found my way. And was allowed to take risks, was allowed to share my opinion, was allowed to fail and try things. And through hard work, I think the results of Head and Shoulders being, I think, the third fastest growing brand globally for them was like, where's that happening? Who's that girl, And maybe I'll share a lesson there later to say, don't run away from the things that don't always have the spotlight. It gives you great space to go learn and try and learn things, So after Head and Shoulders was like, I love the brand, I get it, but the demographic. So at that time, it was largely, talking to white-collared and Indian consumers.
I remember the ads, I remember
the scalp. Shout out to Head and Shoulders. I didn't use it anymore, but hey. Was like, I love the brand, it's great, and it works. But I really want to do something that talks to my people like me. And I want to service that demographic. I want to reach more, because it was also a very niche, dandruff problems is a very niche problem. I want to talk to the masses. So told the organization that, and went on to then look after the fem care business, so the sanitary care business. So always discreet and Tampax. And that was an interesting time.
Iconic
before, we were brave enough to actually put like red dye on the pad. It was still a blue, the blue liquid. And you cut
and you cut it, and I remember that.
Another lesson. Demos work, guys. Kitchen Logic demos work. So worked on those brands, and it was a beautiful time where, being able to show women dancing was not as offensive as it is right now, right? Like in advertising, there's this, don't make black people dance for everything. But at the time, because it was young, kids, literally it came from the insight of observing a consumer group. We had a formal research panel. And then when everybody left, the girls put on music and they were just enjoying themselves. And that freedom is what we wanted to almost express and capture. And so through music and movement and showing that you can still be free in this, what it should be an inhibitive moment, that was why they were dancing. But I learned the art and the power of music because the songs people still remember to this day. I still grow up and remember songs that I learned when I was a kid. So worked on that, worked in local roles. I did some regional roles. and global roles, you know, so very responsible for the extension of that portfolio. So launching a more premium tier offering and something on the lower tier end. And through that work, got promoted to then go work on the home care portfolio. So my journey in home care started there, where I was looking after Ariel, when Ariel just launched into the country. Ariel, Braun, Ambi Pur. And I was shit scared. Excuse my French.
Go for it.
But because you are so young and so ambitious, and the career is really accelerating at a rate you didn't think it would, and then for a company to trust you with one of their biggest brands in their biggest battles, I was paralyzed. And I remember asking my manager at the time, like, any advice for me? Like, how do I do this well? And he said, you know, the gold and the platinum rule and the golden rule. So, you know, treat others how you'd like to be treated, I think, is the golden rule. And then he's like, treat others how they would want to be treated too. And that changes perspective because it requires that you become curious, you know?
I get you.
Yeah. So, Tamani, how would you like to be managed? You know, how would you like to be rewarded? When would you like to get feedback? What do you want for your life? You know, I know what I see for you, but is that what you want? How do I help you? So there, the seed of being curious, I mean, naturally, because you're a marketer, you're curious about consumers, but you're curious about people in their entirety, I think, sparked. So worked on home care, then moved to Pampers, and I think the work of the Ariel launch really planted the seed of what I'd say is Liz the Pan-African brand builder, because there were things that were done with that launch that had never been done before globally and had set this brand on a success trajectory that had never been seen. You know, to take up market leadership in countries like Kenya in a year, become 16% market share, you know, that was unheard of in these categories. And so the eyes of the world wanted to go to South Africa and go learn from South Africa, from Kenya, how to build a global brand. And that's where this balance between there's wealth in local knowledge and translating a global brand mission into a locally meaningful offering. There's power there. So that allows you to also see the power, you know, because especially when you work in a multinational, I think the head office is heralded. Anybody who comes from, you know,
it's like, wow,
you think they must have the blueprint to keep doing this. But you realize, actually, we might know some things too. And so that's where I think my desire, one, to unearth those insights and unearth the things that we've been sitting on that can help brands grow, started to really champion, I'd say, African excellence in the marketing field. But then the humility also struck to say, I'm inspired, but I haven't got the experience in Africa. So if I really am going to become this African marketer, I want to be authentically there. With backing, not just because I Googled Kenya or I Googled Nigeria. And at that time, as I moved on to Pampers to look after Pampers Sub-Sahara, I realized that Unilever had a bigger, let's call it, portfolio of brands that serviced the larger African communities at the time and a larger geographic footprint. So it was the right place and the right, I think, personal move for me as well. My partner was now based in Durban, and I was, you know, I felt like, okay, this would be a move that makes sense for me in all aspects. And then left Pampers, went and joined Unilever, and I've worked, like I was saying, for the longest time in East and West Africa.
Let's talk about brands. Let's talk about the African context, right? What have you seen that are possible, like, learnings for other marketers on how to win in the continent? And I say this because I think it's important, guys, we understand the impact of our own brands in the continent.
Yes.
We are very big, and I always see this, so we work on a report, Brand Africa. And what you always see is how multinets are massive in the continent. To the point where sometimes people in the continent think the brand from the US actually comes from the continent.
Sunlight being a perfect example,
right? But you realize, guys, there's power in our own. So I'd love to get a sense from you what you've seen around brands and growing brands in the continent.
Yeah, I think there is an element of balancing out. So what I'd say is all consumers want great brands. And not just brands, but great products and services, from branded companies and branded products. But they want their needs to be served with the best possible offering. There's an appreciation, because we are living in a globalized, world, of what is out there, whether that's in Europe or that's in America. But it has to be affordable and accessible.
True.
It has to be at the right price point for me to get access to it in that moment, and balancing out my basket of needs. So if you look at South Africa, where you're paid monthly, your ability to go try is big, because people then buy that month-end buy. In a lot of other African markets, it's a weekly, because we're trading, and it's informal. And so if I've only got this much this week, and I really, really want to try your, I don't know, lipstick or your cool drink, your price point is a 2-liter.
It's not a penetration pack.
I just wanted a sip. I just wanted a little bit. Like if I can't buy the Louis Vuitton, what is it called, bag and luggage, maybe I'll go buy a Louis Vuitton necklace or earring. I want to buy into what you have, but it has to be at a point that I can access it. I think that's the biggest kind of learning. And I think designing these brands to meet the African consumer's needs. Sometimes we over-engineer the offering, because how much do we invest in all the frills versus the thing that actually services the need of the consumer? And so these are places where you will need to be creative in how you bring the offering to life. So it's the same proposition, but I can get, a local supplier who gives me more affordable, accessible packaging. And if I don't have to charge them an arm and leg for something that's coming from Europe, gets duties. And by the time all of that costs adds on, you're making them pay for things that they didn't want.
And then what is the complexity then also, on the flip side, of operating in the continent? Because the continent is also not a country. There's like nuances and complexities as you go to West Africa, East Africa, etc. How do you manage that?
I really would like us to become Pan-African, but I think the struggles is we're still operating on the borders that had been set up historically. If you look at just even the geographic landscape, the railroads, just the sizing of the rail tracks doesn't connect between South Africa or Zambia and Zimbabwe. The roads were built in a very extractive nature, to go to where the plantation or the mine is and to get back to the shore. So the connectivity of Africa in terms of trade routes would allow that to happen. The imposing of these duties and regulations makes it very hard sometimes, to offer up the best offering to a market outside of a SADC. But whereas in Europe, it's the Eurozone, things are moving a lot easier than they are, which gives you that kind of scale and momentum to be building that way.
Interesting. Now, as you're talking about brands around the continent, I'm interested to know your favorite brand from the continent. From the continent.
So many.
Okay. No, pick one.
Let me say I love fashion.
Okay.
So fashion brands are definitely my go-to.
I
would have said, Tebe Makuku.
Yes.
Because I think what he's been able to do in putting African luxury on the map in a very personalized way, where he uses his own life stories to inspire his craft. I think he's been exceptional. And at the age that he's doing it, and with the humility that he does it with, I think all of that is very... so Teba's always been a favorite for me. But the brands that I am liking today, there's a brand in Cape Town called Me and B. It's a mom. It's a mom and daughter duo. But I really love the authenticity with which they are building this brand. In fashion, which is such a space that is, there's a lot of competitors.
Got you.
But they genuinely love what they do, and you can tell. And they are not afraid to have insane color combinations, to be the quirky outlier. They're designing for people like that. And I think all of us have that little bit of expression that we want. And to see them do that and be boldly in that, like Crystal Birch with her hats as well. You have these people who, through expressing themselves, are calling us to also buy into a little bit of what they're selling. Yeah?
I get you.
So I'm really loving what Cape Town is doing in that space. I'm loving what Tebo's doing. These are my closers, everybody else. But yeah, me and B for now.
Me and B. Okay, cool. We'll check out Me and B.
Please check them out.
Now, if you then sit and what it sounds like is you also appreciate the craft of building these brands. What have you found has worked for you in the process of building brands? You've worked on like massive brands. Like Sunlight is massive.
Yeah, it's scary, right?
It's massive.
It's scary. I think it's a humility to say it's been around for over 134 years. Yeah. It's definitely not going to die on my watch. So that's the scarier part. But the humility to say there's 134 years worth of history that I have the privilege of tapping into. And I get to do that. So I think my way of doing it is first and foremost learning about the brand. It's the license to operate. So learning what your brand fundamentals are. What is the positioning of your brand? What's the history of your brand? What's the purpose of the brand? What's the brand identity? The typology, the colors. When was the brand doing really well? What were they doing then? When were they doing really badly? What happened? Who are they talking to? Do those people hear them? What do consumers say about the brand versus what the brand wants out there? So really immersing yourself before you start
touching anything.
Before you start touching the paintbrush, just learn what is the painting we are trying to create. And you are here for a short time. Put a couple of strokes, then put that paint down back and move. You're not here to create a whole new canvas for ego. To change the colors of Sunlight. Like, I'm not here for that. So that, I think, is part of the craft.
Got you.
First, be curious and honor the brand that you're trying to build and all the good stuff that comes with it. Understand where the challenges, creative challenges are. And then build the team's energy to want to solve it. Meaning, writing clear briefs is part of the creative process.
Sounds like such a touch. Like you are touched at this point. I can feel you.
Because your creative team are your partners. If I don't tell you what we're trying to, how am I going to help you do that? So writing and using data and data visualization and storytelling to help them understand the brand more. Immersing them, let them use it, let them touch it before you get into the briefing. Take them to where the consumers are. So that when we get into the room and I say, guys, this is my problem, they get it. And then I don't tell them what to do. I say, I've got this problem that I need you to help creatively solve for. And then if they're inspired, because that's what they do, they're going to come back with magic.
Got you.
And then how do you assess the magic? Because it could be magical for another brand.
Got you.
Not magical for our brand. So how do I give feedback that still keeps the energy going so that they can come back with more and more? And then when do I take those brave bets that will catapult the brand back into a new S-curve of growth?
Got you. So you touched on a couple of things I like. One, briefing. And I said I'll plug you to Forge. So Forge is a partner in this podcast. It's the first thing. Secondly, you spoke about the team. I want to double click on the team. So for me, the team, how do you, one, inspire and drive your team to perform to potential? Because you speak about, you have to get the brief right, take the partners, agency partners, and everyone go touch and feel before we touch the brand. But then you mentioned the team, which is a critical part. How do you do that? How do you stimulate them? How do you keep them excited? How do you build and grow them? And it's such a difficult thing as a leader, right? Because you also have to develop and grow. But I've got 20 odd people I need to look after, 8, and then the rest. You know what I mean? Like, how do you navigate that?
I think I've had the privilege of having great leaders who understood that part of their roles is to do that.
Gotcha.
So it's an absolute KPI of me being a leader.
Yeah.
What is leadership if you are not having people who want to follow you?
Yeah.
Right? And how do you get people to follow you? You have to have a vision that's inspiring for them. So yes, how do I set out a clear and inspiring vision for my team that we all were part of creating? So it's not just mine. So I'll put out, this is the first things I'm thinking. How do we, give me feedback, how do we co-create so that everybody buys into the vision? So it has to be inspiring, it has to be audacious, and needs to make us clutch our pearls, clutching the mic, but clutch the pearls. And then the assurance.
Gotcha.
To say, okay, that's the vision. We're going to do it. And you know why I believe we're going to do it? Because I have the best team. And if you're not believing it right now, let's go back and visit history. The facts are proving that you are the best person to do this part of that vision. Because I hold myself to that level of I want to win.
Yes.
And I want to work with winners.
Gotcha.
And do you want to win here? Let's go. Let's go win.
Yeah.
And if you don't, if this is not the vision that you've signed up for, if this is not the team you want, if this is not the manager for you, I also want you to win personally. So I think with everybody that I start managing, I make a personal commitment that I would like you to be your greater self. And I would like to help you get there.
Okay.
Your greater self is not always going to be a person who's part of this team.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But if you want to be part of this team, I will allow you to bring your greater self to this greater mission. Yeah? Which is where I started earlier to say, be honestly curious about people and how they would like to be treated.
That's true.
And once you have that connection, you have buy-in. Because think about yourself, Tabani, no?
Yeah.
Do you not perform the best when you feel like you trust the person, you're clear on what the expectations are, you're allowed to be you, there is safety to learn and fail forward.
Yes.
Those are all the things. That's what we do. Yeah.
So who has those conversations with you? Now I'm interested.
I mean, is he listening? Hello, boss man. I think.
And have you found the same works for you?
Yes,
I'm just curious. Yeah.
Absolutely. The time that I have performed my best is because I signed up for that. Like, I drink the Kool-Aid, man. Let's go. Let's go get it. But I respected the person. Yeah. And not because we're necessarily the same.
Yeah.
In fact, these days I try and seek out people who are different to me to just broaden my experience. But they are good at what they do. They have an edge.
Yeah.
They might not be amazing everywhere, but I don't want stickles. I want stars or triangles. Yeah. You've got sharp edges that you are really, really good at doing. And so I will take the other edges that hurt a little bit because I want to understand that part. So when I found managers that way who set great visions, who I'm inspired by, but also inspire me to bring the best work forward. They hold me to a level of excellence that when I am drifting from, they will have an honored and candid conversation to say, Liz.
Yeah.
And I can trust that. So it doesn't make me fearful that I'm going to lose my job. Every day I'm going to get fired. But I know it comes from a great place of wanting to see me do better than I might be doing in that moment. So yeah, those are the kind of leaders that I go hard for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you're making me think of something. I was watching an interview once, not so long ago, maybe a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And Nozipho Mbanjwa, I'm not sure if you know her. She was speaking about leadership. So she says she had gone, I think, abroad to go I think she went to Harvard.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
Yeah.
But the gist of what she was saying is how she's reshaped or reframed leadership. So she says, as leaders, we always talk about how people experience you as a leader. They must experience me like this and like this and like this. But leadership is actually how people experience themselves under your leadership. I was like, what?
Yes.
It changed my mind about how I actually even view leadership.
I love how she expressed it. Shout outs to her. Because it is a service.
Yeah.
Leadership is service.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in serving people, you are not interested in being a leader.
Yeah.
It is a ministry.
Yeah.
To allow people to become their best selves.
Yeah.
Under your, guidance, under your coaching, under your mentorship. And when you take it that seriously, then you will show up differently. But if it is about ego, because I'm the boss,
yes,
then it becomes a bit of a problem. Because as soon as my ego is attacked, because somebody says, Liz, you don't know how to do it better. Liz, that answer wasn't correct. Liz, what you just said is not as inspiring.
Yeah.
Then my ego gets under attack and I defend.
Yes.
But if I'm humble and curious to say, okay, why would you say that? Tell me a bit more. How else do you think we could frame this? What else would you add? Then the thing becomes bigger. The 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
The collective value becomes bigger than self.
Beautiful. So let's go back to a bit of the marketing stuff. Let's just take a shift from leadership. One of the things you're passionate about is effective communication. Anyone that follows you and has followed your journey knows that you go gaga over amazing creative that's effective.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the importance of that in your world. Because you're also not that close to it anymore, right? Like in your role, you're not necessarily in it. Yeah.
Yes.
You'll have moments of it, but you're not really in it anymore.
Yeah. I think the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I absolutely believe in the power of marketing and the impact that it can make for business.
Yeah.
I think it's a great investment. It's an even more needed investment when your business is not doing well.
Yeah.
And I think we are living in a time where, the role of marketing is being questioned. Its value, in certain spaces is being conversated about, right?
Yeah.
And with tech and everything coming in, everybody's like, okay, what's the value of marketing moving forward? And so there's a responsibility we hold as marketeers, as contributors to shareholder value that we need to take seriously.
Yeah.
And our ability to learn how to express that, our ability to measure it, gives us the confidence to defend the cause of building brands. Not tactical actions in the short term, not the thing that's only going to trend on Twitter tomorrow, but continuous brand building will give you a better return. And there's data for days that proves it. But I think sometimes marketers become shy of it, so I am a fan of effective work because it's measurable. And when you see it and you see the results, you can't contend with the value of what we do. And so that's why, is because I've seen the value of effective work and what it's done on our brands. And I've seen when we are doing work that isn't effective.
Yeah.
And because I also, myself, I'm inspired to want to do better.
Yes.
I'm always looking for inspiration on who else is doing it better. What else could I be learning?
Yeah.
That's a clever, I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
So that's I get joy when the light goes on and I get a new, bright light moment.
Yeah.
I get super excited.
Yeah.
And then I work when you look at work and you get jealous.
Yeah.
Like it must
I
hurt
wish I
you.
did that.
It must hurt you that you didn't have the audacity or the bravery or just the simplicity in the creativity to do it. That I really, really enjoy.
How have you managed the conversation when you have to then pitch it, right?
Yeah.
Because I still find that it's a long-term thing. Brand building for me is a long-term play. You can't expect results now. Then there's also the layer of performance marketing, which everyone is excited about because that's what's going to deliver now. How do you manage that conversation when you're having discussions at a boardroom level?
I think for me in my role right now, I have the responsibility of the now and the future. So it's never an either or.
Okay.
I need to do both.
Yeah.
Sustainability means you are surviving today.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not eaten by the lion
Yeah.
today, but you're thinking of better ways to not always have to run away from the lion. You're thinking of, what armor I could build. Maybe let's go build a house at the top of the hill with the lion. So it's a today and tomorrow conversation. Gotcha. And these are then the trade-offs that we are forced to do every day. What am I going to take away from the investment in the today to invest to be ahead of the curve tomorrow? And I think this kind of the organization that I've seen that have that ambidextrous leadership, not just the people, because it's hard if you are a futurist and you're an ideator, but you're working under somebody who wants everything to pay out now. There's value in having leadership that can flex their leadership styles based on the need of the company in that moment, but can appreciate the value of everything that is being done for the future and for the now. So for me, that's really it. When we sit at the table, it's the conversation of what is it that we are valuing most, and what is the cost. Always hold ourselves true to the cost. So what is that focus on tomorrow costing us today, or the focus on today costing us tomorrow?
And do you partner closely, cross-functionally, with finance directors, CFOs, and the likes? That how do you lobby better so that when the conversation is being had with everyone, because everyone has an opinion about what we do, but no one has an opinion about what finance is doing, because they're plugging in the numbers in the spreadsheets and they're like, Liz, the P&L is not working. The P&L is not working. You can't, it is what it is. But for you, everyone has an opinion about what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve. How do you lobby better across the different roles and functions to win?
I think the role as a storyteller should not be underestimated. I think learning how to use data to tell a compelling story about how this is the best place to invest to win is important, which goes back to the effectiveness. If you don't have that data, how are you going to tell that story? It's not going to be compelling, because where's the data, right? Like, in God we trust, for everybody else will bring data. So based on what are you saying marketing is a thing that we should be doing right now versus maybe retrenching or versus cutting budgets and versus taking why are we saying that investment in innovation is a thing that we should put our money behind? So I have the responsibility of learning how to tell great, compelling stories that convince the organizational cross-functional members that yes, we can invest, but also there's an investment that needs to be made here for the sustainable future of our organization, right? And then I think we're all innately creative. I don't think every creativity is as appreciated, probably because some of the fear that, our parents put in us as we grow. What are you going to do as an artist? No, you can't make money from, coming from a great place, and great intent for their kids. But there's almost an underrating of the value of creativity in the world. But everybody has it. We are outputs of creativity.
I love that.
And so in you is the natural urge to create. I see it as the reason why people have so many opinions on marketing is because they see that is the space where the creations are happening. And I'd like a piece of it.
True.
I'd like to access the Louis Vuitton brand a little bit. So this is now the finance person or the CD person. So I appreciate the feedback. And I'll hear the feedback. But I also need to be firm in the fact that there is experience. There's skill in what we do. So your opinion is great. Thank you. I will evaluate it versus what I know. If it unlocks a new level of learning, thank you. Because you're making us better. But if it is going to go against what we're doing, then I will defend what we are doing. So lanes.
Lanes.
Know your job, do your job. We are speaking to a Springbok player and we're telling them, and we're asking, how do they do this? And he's like, it's very clear. I know what my job on that field is. And mine is to do the best part. So when we're on the field, this is not the time where I'm looking across and seeing where the other guy is doing the best. I just need to do the best part there.
My job.
And then once we won the match, on the side when we're practicing or whatever, then we can. So, in the practice round, we can have the banter. But when it's time for me to do my job, then I need to defend doing my marketing job and knowing my job.
Love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your time. You recently got announced as jury president for the Bookmarks, right? Congratulations.
Thank you. Yay.
So deserving. Happy for you.
Thank you so much.
How did that feel?
Scary.
Is it?
Scary.
Why?
It always is. Anything that you desire coming to you in that moment feels scary. One, because you are going to have to meet the person that you think you are in that moment, right?
Yeah.
And the eyes are there, right? Like, so when the news came, I was just like, I'm so honored that you would even consider me to be worthy to do it. I respect what you guys do, and I would like to make it, I wouldn't want to mess with the standard.
Gotcha.
I want to elevate the standard. So it's going to require a lot more of me in order to do that well. So that's why I was like scared, but scared is good for me. I just need to know. You know, feel the butterflies, it's go time. You know, because the best stuff I've ever done in my life has been when I was scared.
True.
You know, leaving economics. I was scared. I could be unemployed. I could fail at this marketing thing. There are people who have degrees in marketing. I'm going to be an ABM without one. Might fail. You know, the decision to say, actually, I am not going to take an international assignment and I am going to stay here because right now I value being close to my family. Scary, you know, because what does that mean for the future? Moving to Durban and leaving Proctor was scary. Working in Africa is scary, you know, going to a new country, one man, and not knowing, you know, what to expect. And everybody's like, oh, be careful. Scary. Every day, I think you need to go find the things that make you a little afraid. Because if you're not, are you really living?
So you say you're scared?
Yeah.
Or you had a sense of feeling scared when you heard the news?
Yeah.
What does the future look like going into the Bookmarks with you as a jury president? What are your plans?
Yeah.
What should we be excited about?
I think the first thing you should be excited about is the caliber of the judging panel. I'm excited to hear these voices and have their perspective on what marketing in South Africa is and could be, and celebrate the work that is elevating how we show up in the world, right? I think I keep saying the advertising and marketing industries in South Africa are looking for their redemptive story. We've always been known to be let's call it a pool of work and talent and for the globe. And I think our performance in the last couple of years in these global spaces is really not a great representation of our potential. So I am looking forward to the redemptive story of the case of creativity in this country, particularly with the Bookmarks. Really, what is then setting the new standard of digital marketing, and craft, and what does this, you know, who are the people behind that? So that's what you can expect, a great panel. Great. I can't wait. I just can't wait to be in the rooms with them and just, you know, feed off the brilliance in the space. I think the quality of work, we're also doing a lot to try and help people understand, you know, how to present their work better, how to tell their stories better, whether, you know, we're having webinars with publishers, we're having webinars with agencies and clients on how to submit better work and what is it that trips people up. So we really do want everybody to present their best case. We're not trying to trip people up here, you know. And I think the support that I've had from the team at the Bookmarks has been exceptional. So I'm also looking forward to just being me. Just being me.
And tell me, so with everything that's going on in the digital space, and you mentioned obviously that's the role that Bookmarks play, what are some of the things we should look out for, or what you're seeing bubbling under from a digital perspective, over and above AI? I think we talk about AI, but we also don't go in detail into what it is, like the role it plays. But from a digital perspective, what are you seeing?
I think the most exciting thing for me is the drop of data prices, the accessibility of global content, because everybody's got a phone, has allowed social media to be a new grounding force in terms of how brands are built. We've seen the brands that have just been built through social media. I love the convergence of channels that 2 o'clock at night when I'm have insomnia and I just buy things without stores opening at 8 or 9. So the purchase decision tree and the consumer journey is completely being everything we've known marketing to be, the funnels, it's being challenged and by data that proves that there are other ways to do this thing. So I'm most excited about the social first era where key opinion formers, I wouldn't just say influencers, but people who have an opinion have so much power, and everybody can tell stories, and you don't have to have the finest tech or the biggest budgets or the R&D support or a funder. You can just wake up, and tell us your life. And resonate with so many South Africans and change the trajectory of your life. That for me is super exciting. So I think as a company, as Unilever, we have put it out there that this is going to be a strategic imperative for us, to leverage social first demand creation to build our brands into the new era and to partner with people who are in that space, to give our brands a new, refreshed, and the 34-year-old brand must, get itself a new life to stay alive for the next 134 years. So I'm most excited about that learning.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. So as we wrap up, the last couple of minutes left, if you had a conversation with your younger self about the world of diversity in corporate. And I'm poking because I know you like that conversation must stop. So I know exactly what I'm doing. Because I don't think it must stop. So this is the part where you and I disagree. I think the conversation must be had.
About diversity.
All of it.
Yes.
And not only from a color perspective, gender, everything.
Yes.
Because I'd like to think I have a difficult time in corporate, but yours is possibly 10 times worse. Just because you are female. Both you and I are black. But just because you're a female, you've got another layer now that you need to get over. If you had to tell your younger self and advise them before they go into their next role about what to expect, how to manage it, what would you say?
Stick to exactly what you did. And only because I'd say my journey started at a company where there wasn't a conversation about the power of diversity in what we do. The diverse views is what made our work strong. The inclusive community is what made people safe to create and perform. So I started at a company where that wasn't even, I think they were like level 2 BBB company at the time. My leadership, it was representative of this country. So I didn't start with those fears or feeling like when I looked up, I couldn't see somebody who looked or represented, me. I think the challenge had always been finding women, black women in particular, at the most senior levels. And I'm not saying I want the discussion to stop. So let me say, I want the discussion around the business case of DE&I to stop. Because it's been shown. It's been shown in terms of the value that companies that have, diverse talents and pools and people that they work with, in terms of the growth that they're able to get, in terms of the bottom line that they're able to create. Like, why are we still having that conversation? Where we need to move is the conversation into, are we creating spaces that are equitable, that are inclusive, where people feel that they belong? When are we getting there? Let's have that conversation on what is it that I leave at the door when I tag in that I don't think can come into this space.
Got you.
Yeah? what part of me am I not allowed to express when I come into the space? When I started my career, I used to have straight, relaxed hair, you know, because that was the look, you know, that was what I thought I needed to fit the mold to look professional, to look like somebody who's serious. And at probably some point, and it was just before I was starting to think about, you know, having kids and what I want them to learn. I decided to cut my hair and grow it naturally. And because I needed to learn how to love myself, first. Yeah. And then get into a space where I can present myself and be safe in myself. And in doing that, you teach the space to change. But if you don't present an afro ever, do we ever have to think about that?
No.
Yeah. So if we're all going to tag the spaces that we don't think belong here out, when do we have a conversation about that? When do we have a conversation about the various spaces of religion and how we are accommodating those in our organizations? You know, we've talked about sexuality because somebody had to present themselves and be brave enough to stand and say, this is me. And I'm going to be here as me, and you guys have a choice. Either are going to welcome me, or you're going to make me feel like I need to retract that part.
Yeah.
And it's in those welcoming spaces that great work is being done. Look at across all our organizations that are doing well in this country. It's the organizations that have diverse, representative teams, that have equity, that are inclusive, that have ownership by many stakeholders that are doing well.
I love that. Parting shot.
Yeah.
What fuels you? What is your purpose?
When I said it's to be the yeast in the African loaf. Yeah. And it's if you're Christian, you would know the analogy of Jesus feeding people with bread. Yes. So there's an element of nourishment that bread has, but I'm tiny in stature. Yeah. But I am fully aware of the impact that I could have. Yeah. In the bigger bread that is Africa. Gotcha. And mine is to just be there and spark. Spark, you know, the bread rising. Yes. The bread realizing it can become an abundant source. So that's what I do. In every space I come into, I try and ignite in somebody the passion to want to be their greatest self. Because we're all worth it. And there's no glory in playing small. Yeah? There's no glory in playing small. So chase you and be brave enough to find you, and then be brave enough to be you. Yeah. And then the rest. the rest is the rest. So that's me. Yeah.
No, I love it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, I'm glad.
And what I always say with these conversations is I learn from them as much as I create them for other people to learn. So thank you for giving your full self to this interview. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.